Greetings, dear friends! I present to your attention the most common malfunctions and breakdowns that occur on the Nissan X-Trail. Taking a closer look at the motor line, it becomes clear that the resource and reliability of the motor will remain without question. And this is because the engines are particularly the same that were used for the previous X-Trail. Let's take a 2-liter MR20DD. What makes it different from the old MR20DD? All in all, phase regulators, but direct injection, which depressed the horses to 144 horses. And that's all. The rest of the MR20DD is a familiar, reliable chain unit that is capable of driving 300,000 kilometers without a hitch, provided that consumables are replaced in a timely manner. However, a couple of negative points were found. The motor will have to be periodically inspected for oil leaks, especially the sump and the front cover of the engine, chain cover. Almost every owner of the X-Trail with 2.0 at different periods of operation encounters such snot. The problem is solved logically simple. By sealing. That is, by re-sticking the connector of the leaked element. Inexpensive and effective. The second problem arose due to the desire of Nissan to catch up with competitors in terms of performance by adding direct injection. Horses may have increased, but not as much as excess hemorrhoids. The increased demands on the quality of fuel, as expected, led to the fact that owners who were not practically puzzled by the choice of refueling are faced with a loss of traction and an increase in gasoline consumption. Thus, the nozzles of the nozzles are clogged and coked, because of which they will have to be removed, washed and rejoiced at the added 3 horsepower further. In the used X-Trail market, the 2.5-liter 171 HP QR25DE unit is priced above all else. Probably it should be so, because it took place under the hood of the T32 without undergoing any changes. Naturally, the resource at least has not decreased. Moreover, the problems with the nozzles, as in the younger unit, do not bother, and in general there are practically no weak points here, if you do not take into account the same oil leaks of the sump and the front cover of the motor. Such a small oil stain on almost impeccable reputation. I like used diesels. Simple, unpretentious, resource-based. The 1.6 engine named R9M would not be an exception, if it were not for the desire to save 1 milliliters using the start-stop system. All old-school car enthusiasts are aware of why a turbo timer is needed and what stopping a turbocharged engine can turn into without a minute of idle time. What was warned about is happening. The average resource of the turbine was about 150 TkM, despite the fact that some of the supercharging did not reach up to 100 TkM. Overheating and cocking of the blower channels do their job. Not without irony. Someone from the electronics engineers accidentally or intentionally created a saboteur, which includes, as strange as it may sound, a useful malfunction. Simply put, in X-Trail T31 electrics, there are cases of failure of the start-stop system due to a breakdown of the control relay. And if I were you, I wouldn't do anything about it. Alternatively, you can repair the relay so that the no errors are lit. But it is better to turn off the engine shutdown function in a traffic jam. She will not save you anything. The classic automatic on the X-Trail is no longer to be found. A diesel engine can be found only with a reliable and unpretentious mechanical box. And for gasoline units, as expected, a variator was provided. Just not the old familiar JF011E, but the freshly baked JF016E of the CVT 8th generation. Owners appreciated the driving performance of such a box positively. Not every man in the street will be able to distinguish this variator from the traditional automatic. True, if we talk about weaknesses and resources, then the impression here is already ambitious. On the one hand, the number of rejects according to reviews has decreased by an order of magnitude. There are, of course, cases of premature wear, but it is impossible to call them general. There is no reason. On the other hand, the total resource has decreased slightly. The former JF011E on the previous X-Trail with proper care could cover 250 TkM, the JF016E under the hood of the T32 and up to 200,000 km does not always hold out. The most important thing is that when the first jerks appear during acceleration, do not delay diagnostics and repairs. Otherwise, cons, an oil pump, a valve body and other units may be added to the replacement of a worn lamellar belt. It is even better if you change the belt at 150,000 as a preventive measure, even if there are no signs of wear. In the context of the next 100,000 kilometers, this approach will only save money. Sometimes it is worth looking at the connection between the engine and the variator. There are cases of leakage of the gearbox oil seal, and this is fraught with premature release of grease and you know what else. I think it is not worth talking about the periodic oil change in the variator, every 40 TkM. This is the main rule of longevity. As an auto picker, I was also embarrassed by the loss of the dipstick from the design of the box. It used to be clearer. It was possible to roughly estimate the quality of CVT care by the color smell of the lubricant and the presence of shavings. But now, when buying a used car, you will have to rely only on external inspection, computer data and subjective feelings during the test drive. CVT is unpredictable anyway, but here we have another verification factor taken away. It's a shame. With all-wheel drive, the Nissan X-Trail did not have any special problems and the T32 has nothing to please us with, because the electromagnetic clutch in the rear axle drive remains the same, only the control unit is different, tied to the ESP system. If anything happens to the torque line to the rear wheels, it is wear on the drive shaft cross pieces, especially for those who like to drive into a puddle on a forest road. Otherwise, no comments or problems. There were no revolutions in the chassis of the new X-Trail either. The Japanese do not like to spoil what already works. That is why the weak points are similar to those that have already been known for a long time. One of these is the silent blocks of the front subframe and levers. By 100 TkM, all these rubber technical LEDs are usually completely replaced, or they already require urgent rotation. Approximately the same number of wheels, bearings rotate and stabilizer struts loom. As strange as it may sound, chassis breakdowns are the least concern of Nissan X-Trail owners. But the creaks. Trouble with creaks. No sounds occur only when driving in a straight line. Over time, the bumpers on the front shock absorbers begin to creak on irregularities. On the boot of the steering shaft squeaks at the exit to the engine compartment when cornering. If in the midst of the illness you simultaneously drive through the pits and turn, then, as the users themselves say, you can shoot yourself. Shame on the whole yard. From a technical point of view, nothing bad happens, but the psych undermines specifically. You have to lubricate once a month, or change the rubber bands for new ones. But in the rear multi-link, there is silence and tranquility for at least 200,000 kilometers. Also, as with squeaks, it will be difficult to find an X-Trail T32 owner who is not caught off guard by electrical problems due to a loose connection in one of several CAN bus connectors. Anything can stop working: multimedia, climate system, engine may stall, or the electric power steering may fail at the most interesting moment. There are many surprises. The solution is one: soldering the entire CAN bus line to the problem area. If the EUR does not work in the first minutes after starting the car, then most likely the weak point was the battery, which, according to the owners, rarely fulfills its duties for more than 3 years, especially in close cooperation with the ill-fated start-stop system. The rest of the electrician Nissan X-Trail T32 resembles a typical Japanese. Everything always turns on and works flawlessly. On this, information about the problems of Nissan X-Trail is exhausted. If you know more or disagree with what you heard, I'm waiting for you in the comments.